how fun is this? I kind of want to just take Tom's paints and go nuts right now. But, yeah, right. Before I get into what I'm going to get into, I'm going to center myself for a minute, but I also have to make it clear for everybody that any food truck mix-up on the menu, that was mine. That was mine. That was not on Rita's. That was anyone else. So if I gave you false hope for lobster rolls, I hope you were consoled with the absolutely astounding barbecue food that was served. And I said, that's not the worst mistake I ever made, and that's not the worst false hope I've ever offered anyone, so I'm cool with it, because after you give your 8-year-old grieving son a puppy that he can love forever and it dies 4 days later, it's pretty hard to match that level of disappointing somebody. So hope you're okay with it, because I've recovered already. All right. I am going to do today something I have never done, something I have been warned not to do, something any professional speaker would probably never do and advise me not to do, but I'm going to go for it anyway. And I'm going to ask you guys for your patience and for your grace and your trust, because I'm going to share with you topics that I don't speak on, a topic I have never spoken on, and a topic I sort of hope to never speak on again, but I have to. It's been building up and building up, and if there was ever a group of people that I can convey this message to, maybe just once, and you can carry it out into the world, would be amazing. It is something that you might actually reject at first, the way I did. It might create a visceral response in you, the way it did in me. It might be something that annoys you, angers you, that you feel challenged, that you want to turn away at first, because it is going to challenge you. It's going to challenge your faith. It's going to challenge your perception of yourself. It might change your perception of me. But I'm going to go for it anyway. Are you down? Okay. I haven't practiced this. I haven't written it. I don't have notes. I didn't rehearse it. It is what it is, okay? I'm going to talk about courage. I'm going to talk about compassion and grace. I'm going to talk about where one ends and another begins. And I'm going to challenge you all to dig deep in yourself and apply this to your lives, because as hard as it may be, as shocking, if it changes your opinion of me, whatever, it's worth it, because I promise you, if you can open yourself up to what I have been opened up to, very unwillingly, by the way, so that's a big ask. I didn't have a choice. I just was. I'm asking you to do this by choice, because I probably wouldn't have. But I promise you it's worth it. I'm going to start first with the change going on in the country. The absolutely undeniable, impossible to miss change, the pivotal shift that is happening in our country. It's everywhere, right? Can anybody believe what has happened? Can anybody believe where we are today? Does anybody know what happens to us 2 years from now, how we get through this? What is happening? What is happening in our society and in our country, in our world, and in our families and in our communities? From the lockdowns to the borders being open to what's happening in our churches now and our schools and our communities. Feels like the world has lost its collective mind. And what was really, really frustrating, not just for me and Dave, I know, but for so many of us. For me and Dave, what was frustrating is when people would say to us, I'm so glad you're speaking up. Thank God you are. I can't, of course. I'll never work again. If I said the stuff you were saying, I would be canceled. My boyfriend would break up with me. I could never go to my girlfriend's house again. You go ahead and say it. That's great. You try to build a platform saying things that people with platforms are being censored on. You do it, because I'm just not that stupid, right? But you take the bullets, you take the arrows. Man, we would get mad. And for a little while, I got a little self-righteous. I was like, my husband died, and you're afraid to not be invited to a wedding? You know, I wasn't very compassionate to those people. I'm working past that. But there is another change that I'm going to talk about, because we don't really need to go down that road. There are people coming later on today who are far more prolific and a hell of a lot funnier than I am. We got Bobby Sauce and Chad Pray, they're coming on later, so I'm going to leave that stuff to them. I'm going to talk about the change that is so sly, so cunning, so deceitful, deceptive, you do not see it coming. I promise it is a change that has most likely happened in you, even though you're not going to want to see it. When I suggest this here in a minute, you might get pissed at me. You might say, nope, that's not me. Up yours, Barb. You don't know me at all. Go ahead. That's okay. That's cool. I get it. I said the same thing. I'm going to talk about this shift in courage. First, I'm going to talk about what courage looks like. I'm going to talk about it felt like half the country willingly and almost gleefully handed over their compassion for their, quote, courage, because how courageous you have to be to follow a mob mentality that's backed by the media, backed by the government, backed by the corporations, where you're celebrated as a hero, that encourages you to squash other people. That doesn't require courage. What it does require is a lack of compassion. And that's what it felt like half the country did and turned on us, didn't it? It still does, right? The, quote, tolerant side became the most intolerant side, the most cruel side. And we railed, but so many of us stayed silent. Only now are people finding the true courage to stand up, and thank God for that. Thank God for that, right? Right. I hope we don't stop. I hope we don't stop. And it is a time where we can almost not show compassion. Compassion has no place in this fight, right? We have to play dirty like they do, or we're never going to win. If they're going to go there, we have to go there. We can't keep trying to be the better people, can we? We have to just go for it. And we justify that to ourselves. I get it. I do it, right? It's very easy to do. You have to. You're fighting for your family now. All bets are off. Kill or be killed. There are some people it's like easy to not be compassionate for. I don't have a lot of compassion, for instance, for, let's say, the people who commented on the stories. When my husband was killed, it was national news everywhere. I would read the comments because I would find hope and faith in the people who offered encouraging comments. I'm praying for you. Thank you for service. I needed that. I needed that message when I felt alone. What I didn't expect was, he probably deserved it. I served in Vietnam. I saw lots of officers fragged. They probably deserved it. He knew what he was signing up for. What's she complaining about? Oh, poor baby with all her insurance money. On and on and on it went. I did not expect that. It's not really a stretch for me to not feel super compassionate to those people. There's the obvious enemies. There's the pedophiles out there. Who feels compassionate for them, right? We'd never be like that. I saw a story recently, about, I think this was a father who went to work and, quote, forgot his kid in the car, who forgot that his baby was in the back seat. Who does that? That dude should never have another kid again. It's not hard to not feel compassion, right? He left his poor baby in the car to die. That's who does that? It's easy to snap to judgment. The drag queens coming into our schools, corrupting our kids, coming into our churches. We can't afford compassion. We have to push back. We have to fight. We have to show no mercy because they're coming after our kids, right? What do you think? What do you feel when you hear stories like that? Do you feel compassion for somebody who could forget their kid? Like, you get it on the one hand, right? But anybody honest enough to raise your hand and say you feel very little compassion for that person? Few brave souls here. I'm going to bet most of you are lying to yourselves right now. And that's okay, I get it. I was too. I would instantly feel like, same thing. That person should be locked in a car themselves. That person should suffer the same fate they inflicted upon their poor baby, right? What kind of parent could do that? What kind of parent raises a kid that's a transgender? I would never do that. My kid would never turn into that freak. Those people aren't going to heaven, right? They're living an ungodly life. We either save them or they go to hell. Probably where they deserve to be, right? This is what we hear. We pass around the memes. We send them around. We laugh. We joke. It's hilarious. It's good fun. They're not people. They're just memes. This is what's happening because we've been pushed so far. So we've been pushed so far over. It's become so crazy that it feels like we just can't afford to be kind anymore because our kindness is being exploited. When we give an inch of kindness, they take it from us, and they turn it against us, so that's what's happening. In this fight to save our country, to save our families, to save our communities, we can't afford compassion because that's what they know we'll do, and that's where they get in. I get it. I've been there. But I'm going to tell you about 2 families I know that have forced me to peel these issues wide open. 2 parents I know who have no choice, whose struggles and experiences have changed my life in such a profound way and really caused me to take a very hard look at myself. I think I'm a nice person. I like to think I'm a nice person. But under this microscope I had to put myself under this past year, I realized I had so much room to grow. And man, it hurt. It hurt to take that look. It hurt to realize what I was doing. I couldn't stand it. It really sucked. Changed everything I thought about myself. But I am coming out the other side much more aware. I'm telling you, it is like a whole new me. All this stuff happening, all these things happening, I don't care. I'm like at peace with so many things, right? Because I've done this work. I've taken this journey. First mom I'm going to tell you about is somebody in this room. Somebody you saw co-star in that video with me last night. Met her for the very first time when I walked in from my very first acting job in a very uncomfortable situation where I had to walk into the living room scene where the military detail comes to the door, and I had to be that gold star mom hitting the floor. Super uncomfortable. This woman, we sort of knocked heads at first for a second, a little bit. She could have kicked my ass. She chose not to. I'm grateful for that. This woman snapped at me because I didn't know her pain. I didn't know what it's like to lose a child. I said, no, I don't. She said, I lost my son, and it was my fault. This woman is a military veteran with an insane career of achievement, accomplishment. She is a mom who adores her children. She has a loving husband. She served her country. She served her community. And when she was in the military, she experienced a traumatic experience. You heard Jenna McKay speak on that this morning. Some of you have dealt with trauma yourself, unhealed, does bad things, impacts us all. This woman drove to work one day, completely different routine. I'm not going to tell her whole story because I hope one day you get to hear it directly from her. She drove to work, different circumstances. Everything was different that day. It wasn't supposed to be this, wasn't supposed to be that. Car seat on the other side of the car. She wasn't supposed to be driving her kid that day. Fog of trauma flaring up and hitting her. I promise you that is a real thing. Drove right past the daycare, got into work, got the call a couple hours later, went through something nobody should ever, ever, ever have to go to. Did CPR on her own child. Villainized in her worst possible moment. The hubris of society and us, and me included, who would see that story and say, who cares? She deserves it. Who the hell, out of all the things I've done, I would never forget my kid, right? I'd never forget my kid. Terrible person. Instantly. That was an easy one for me, it was an easy pass. I got to feel like I was a little better than somebody. You know, the last in line syndrome, doesn't matter how long the line is, how bad something sucks, as long as there's someone behind you, you feel pretty good. You feel like less crappy about yourself. She was way behind me. I was never be that bad a mom. When I met her, I didn't even realize the impact her story had on me because there was so much going on. It wasn't until I got home and I was like, whew, peeling it back. Not a single day has gone by where I have not thought of this woman. And the compassion she showed me I was lacking. I don't know about you. I don't want to be the person that fails to see compassion for another human being. I don't want to be it, and I've been turning into that. I think I'm a good person, but I judge. Who am I to judge? But I did. I judged her. I'd never met her. Shame on me, right? I had to take this whole long, hard look at myself. Man, I have grown. And I bet every one of us who sees a story like that thinks the same thing along those lines, right? Maybe not. Maybe there's just some, Tom Barano would never think that. You know? But but it is real. How easy. How many times in our lives and in our days do we see something, we just snap to judgment because it hasn't hit us, because it's not our pain. It's not our story. It's not our path. It's not our experience. But what do we overlook in our own lives? 9/11 happened. I had a newborn baby. I had a 1-year-old. I had a 2-year-old. My husband was at ground zero. I was taking care of horses on the farm where we lived. I took my infant son in his car seat. I put his car seat down next to the barn. I go about my barn business for a sec. He's fine. He's sleeping. I walk out to the field to get the horses. I open up the gate. They go running into the barn, right up past the car seat where my infant son was. They galloped over, and one horse jumped over the car seat. I could have killed my son in that moment. Who the heck am I to look at that story and say, phew. And when I think back about it, how many close calls have we all had? There, but for the grace of God go we. Do we want our courage to come at the cost of our compassion? I don't think we do. I don't think anybody in this room does. This is what we are being baited into, though. The psyops, the psychological warfare that is being deployed on this country, they're not just coming for our kids, they're coming for our hearts. And they're gaining ground, and we don't even know it, because those memes are funny, right? Those memes out there make it so easy. I love myself a good people at Walmart meme, man. I spend a little too much time looking at them, right? I don't think that giant person with their flesh hanging out is someone's kid. I just think, look at that piece at Walmart. You know, like, it's funny, the phrases, right? Who doesn't love a good people at Walmart theme, right? It's like cult classic. But is it? Should it be? Should our humor and entertainment be at the cost of another human being's dignity? That's somebody's kid. That was a little kid that grew up once, that had hopes and dreams. Maybe they still do. Maybe they're an amazing person. Maybe they feed orphans. We don't know anything about them other than what's in this meme. And man, are they a joke to us. It's the inch by inch, the slippery slope. That's what I'm asking you all to be aware of. When we look at this war between normalcy and the LGBTQ community, if I missed the letter, but we look at that and it's coming, it's no longer a live and let live policy. It can't be, because that's been exploited. They're coming after our kids, our churches, drag queens in churches and schools. What is happening? It needs to stop. It cannot be allowed to continue. I get that. I'm for that. I understand it. I also happen to be the mom of a son. My youngest child is living life as a transgender woman now. I don't talk about this. I can talk about my husband. I can talk about the murder trial. I could talk about his autopsy report, what a claim where mine does, what it felt like, everything I've been through since, the abusive relationships I've been, because I've built my armor. I can do that, and then I can go home and take that armor off in private. I haven't built this armor yet. But I'm building it now, I guess. So this is my crossroads I'm at. I have been tested and I have been tried. When my son was 14, he came to me and told me this is what was going on. I said, no, it's not. You have so much trauma in your life. My kid's not this. You have so much trauma, so much depression, so much things I've said. Let's get you into a therapist. Let's unpack all of these issues. Let's see what's really happening, because I love you. And I want to make sure you don't take a path that you will regret and you can never undo. We went to one therapist. I said, this is my kid's story. Can we unpack this? Can we see what's going on? Can I help? Less than 15 minutes, that therapist comes out and gives me a package and says, take your kid to transition right now, or he'll kill himself. It'll be your fault. I went to another therapist. 15 minutes later, take your kid to transition now. These kids kill themselves. You don't want that to happen. I went to another therapist and another therapist and another therapist. Each time it validated what my child was thinking. Each time my child got angrier at me because I was just trying to brainwash them and I wasn't listening. He suffered, withdrew, painful years for both of us. I was trying my best to protect my child from a mistake that I thought would torment him, that he could never undo, from a path full of danger. I was trying to protect myself from that, you know. I have 4 boys. This is my reality. I can't have, like, I have checked a lot of boxes in my life I never thought I would check. Could I just have one? Like, please? Could I not match every country song or meme? Like, can I have a break, right? Apparently not. So back and forth we went until the day came, I want to say about 6 months after our first Great American Summit. I was thinking, okay, I know we're still going through this. We got this going okay. Things are building up. I have a break. And finally, my child called me to tell me what had happened 6 months prior. Actually, not long after our Great American Summit. Mom, I heard, I really hate my roommate. I didn't want to die next to her, so I got up and went into the next room to overdose there. For 12 hours, I thought I was going to die, but I didn't. Did the school call me? No, I don't have any rights. Did anyone call me? Did my child call me in the hour of need? No. Will I do whatever I need to do to keep my child on this earth and in my life? Even if I'm judged by anybody, I don't care. Yes, I will. I buried my husband. I am not going to bury my kid. Even if I have to go at war in my brain, if I have to go at war with my soul, my beliefs, my values, if I have to hear people tell me, my kid will not get into heaven because they're living an ungodly life, if I have to tiptoe around pronouns I don't get that frustrate me, if I have to go through this inner battle myself, if I have to live in secret, if I have to try to lead this community, pushing back against this transgender, whatever is happening in our world, and not tell you that I am the parent of a transgender child, am I being true to you, to me? If I'm not giving you the choice, if you still want to value my opinion on this topic or not talk about this topic, if I pretend it's not happening and you don't know, I don't give you the option to choose to keep me in these conversations or not, is that fair to you? No. Is it fair to my child to make them feel like I'm ashamed of them? No. Is it fair? Is any of what's happened to me fair? No. Who cares? We don't get to choose fair and unfair. We get to choose how we respond to it, how we rise to it. Has it taught me? Does it continue to teach me the depths of my love? That my love is unconditional? Do my kids work with me? Do we agree with each other? Are they frustrated? Have I said something in this talk that they will watch back and will have hurt them? I don't know, but I'm trying. Have I said something here that will alienate you? Is this going to get me speaking gigs? Is this my speaker reel? No. Do I want to talk about this forever? No, but I'm doing it because some things need to be said. So this is my challenge to you, is to ask yourself what courage really looks like. Because we need a lot of courage in this world and in our families and in our homes. I hope we all find it. I hope this rise of people standing up and speaking out doesn't go away. I hope it gets stronger. We are in a pivotal moment now. We need every man and woman to step forward and say, no, we're not going to allow this to happen. We need people to go out on a limb and take a stand. We need people to push back and preserve our children's innocence. We need this. We need our compassion and our grace too. Sacrificing those in the cause of courage, I don't think that's a win. I don't. Personally, I'd rather be decimated with my soul and my humanity intact than sacrifice that to win, because at the end, the only battle we really face, the only decision, the only judge we ever face is not on this earth. That's the judge I want to stand before and be embraced. I've already failed, I feel, in so many ways. I feel I failed God and my husband and my kids. I could go on and on with the ways I fail, but you can't fault my effort. And I'm okay with that. I would rather go down trying. I'd rather be flawed. I'd rather have people get up and walk out and say, you know what, I can't be a part of this community with somebody. Okay, But I'd rather have people make the choice, and I'd rather know, and I'd rather other parents. I know there's at least one other parent in this room, I believe. There's one other person in this room who has somebody that they love, who is also a member of the transgender community, is going through the same struggles I am. Do you know there's a secret society for parents? Do you know parents are afraid to speak in public and ask for help? Do you know how many times I have been told, I was in a community, I paid $300 a month to be in this community with people inspiring and lifting each other up, and we were going to lead, and we're so tough, and we're this, and people come with their personal problems, and you're so brave. Community rallies, they give each other constructive criticism. I say, okay, I had this moment with my youngest. I was breaking down. I said, I'm going to go live in the community because I don't want to care what I look like. I just want to talk and think. I want to be real. And if I care what I look like, I'm not going to be able to ask for help. So I popped on live. By the way, I'd recommend against this. I popped on live, and I'm snotting and tearing worse than I am now. And I go live in this community. I say, here I am. I'm new. This is my problem. I need help. Is there somebody in this community who's dealt with this that can help me understand how to parent, how to approach this as a mom? And I sit back and I wait, and I'm like, oh my God, somebody's going to come forward. I'm going to meet another parent who's going through this. And you know what came in? What a piece of shit you are. How can you be so selfish? This isn't about you. This is about your kid. My stepson killed himself because of people like you. Your son's going to kill himself, and it's going to be your fault. Get the hell out of this community. We don't want you. And the leader of that community, I was paying $300 to, who commented on every other person's post telling them how courageous they were, had nothing to say. Allowed this to go on and on. Until finally, I just removed the post and left the group. There was nowhere for me to turn, and that's why I'm speaking out today as well. Because parents should not be ashamed of their kids ever. I don't care what your child has done. I heard a talk from the mother of the Columbine shooter one time, and she talked about how she wasn't allowed to grieve her own son, who she also knew did a terrible thing. She was horrified, trying to reconcile her pain over what her child had done versus her pain of losing her child. She was told, who cares? I don't care that your kid died. I care that she was told she had no right to grieve her own child, even while acknowledging what her child had done. Imagine the hell and the torment. I thought the same thing. I was like, shut up, lady. This isn't about you. What gave me the right to do that? I did. So I share these stories with you, not for an immediate impact, not for a comment, not for a result. I invite you to take it home and let it rest with you. Think about it. Next couple weeks, next couple months, whatever that may be. I invite you to take a moment. Every time you see something on social media, those funny memes come in. Let's start there. Making fun of somebody. Before you share it, before you pass it on, before you create something and post it yourself, I invite you to ask yourself for a minute, what is my intent with this content? What is its purpose? Does it have a purpose? Of course it does. What is the purpose? Is this going to serve anybody? Does this help somebody? Does this offer a path, a solution to anybody? Or does this just mock somebody and bring them down? Does this just add to what we profess that we stand against? What is the purpose? Who does it serve? What value does it offer? Is this who I want to be? Is this what I call courage? Am I brave for posting a meme about this person? Does that make me cool? Is that more important? This is what I ask of you. And I struggle. I keep using the people at Walmart memes. Clearly, can you guess what memes I had to give up? I didn't realize how much I liked those until I told myself I couldn't share them anymore. I'm like, because they're funny. Thank you, Bobby Sauce, for existing. So that's it. I just asked you to take that lesson forward, that thought forward. What does your courage look like to you? And I'm not going to say this person's name. I'm not going to pass off who they are. But if the parent who I reference would like to come up on stage with me and say something, you're more than welcome to. If not, I get it. But this is what I challenge you all to do. Ask yourself, what does courage look like to you? What do you want your courage to look like? And carry that out into the world. This is Raylan. Thank you. got nothing else you want to say.
I just want to say that she's right. When we first met, there was a little bit of tension because of the comment that she made. And the thing that I learned when my son died of how unbelievably horrible people could be and the comments they would make. And for the longest time, I questioned myself on being a good mom because my son was 9 months old. And to lose a child is catastrophic to begin with. But when it's your fault, it's something that you really never feel like you will ever get that love, that caring, that loss. It will never go away. And so when her and I began to talk and I understood her story, the one thing that I've taken away from everything that has been said about me, said to me, comments made, not just to me. We had a 14-year-old son at the time that our son passed, and he was absolutely treated horrifically at school. His mother was called a murderer. I didn't know any of this until he was much older, and he actually went into rehab from substance abuse because of what he had dealt with at the fallout of his brother's passing. Grace and mercy. And that's what her and I talked about, grace and mercy. Every single person that said something negatively about me, they don't know me. They knew nothing about me. I am a good mom. I was blessed to have a husband that stood by my side through everything. And I've learned a different perspective that every time I see a meme, I see a story about something, about a person and what they did, I think about what I went through and what their true story is and take that different perspective. And when Barb told me that our conversation a year ago impacted her the way it did, maybe that's what I'm still here for. Maybe that's what my son's passing was meant to be, is to educate people, because we have as a society lost that compassion in a lot of respects. I'd never been into trouble, had an exemplary career, awarded a Bronze Star during Iraq as a staff sergeant, and then I forgot my son in the car. How is that even possible? But at the end of the day, I think that's the learning lesson between being able to express that, and for her to tell me that my story impacted her just means his death wasn't for nothing.